Hey guys, welcome back to Heart of the Hero, Tools for Successful Minds. I'm Dan. I'm here with Greg. We like to talk a lot about ways we can achieve success. We like to give you some perspectives and some new ways of looking at things and ways to get things done. Ways to study, grind, deal with mental struggles and resistance through hard times and grinding and getting things done. And we really like to just provide as much for you guys because we really want to contribute to your journey and your path. And we really help, or we hope to help in as many ways as we can. So what are we getting into tonight, Greg?
Today, we are talking about how to control your thinking, how to control your thoughts. This is something that a lot of people want to know how to do, right? You want to get control of kind of what's going on in your mental space. Maybe you have negative thoughts. Maybe you're having, self-worth issues, self-doubt, anger, whatever it is, right? The stuff that's going on in your head, you kind of want to reorient it. And even if it's positive, right, you kind of want to know, maybe, is there a switch? Is there a way to like turn this stuff off? Like, I'm distracted. Is there a way I can maybe tune this out? Well, today, we're going to tell you some techniques, some tools, some kind of really effective ways that you can actually start to control your own thinking. So if you stick around, if you hang around and you pick these tips up and, just kind of hang out with the community, we're going to talk about specifically what it is that you could do to actually make that happen.
Yeah, this is it's funny, we did one of your favorites with the whole information thing, and this is actually kind of one of my favorites. I think I've talked about it in other videos, wanted to do it, and I finally was just like, man, I've talked about this, I want to do this. It's one of my favorite kind of areas to work on as far as self-development. For me, I'm a very heady person, so I spend a lot of time upstairs rewiring, so to speak, and and we're going to talk a little bit about that, what that means. We're going to talk a little bit about where you're maybe out right now in maybe some issues and some problems like anxiety and depression, and it's just some kind of cognitive issues that can come from the inability to control your mind, and how that can actually affect your success, because it plays a big role, and it's a lot to unpack. But I think we're going to cover it well. I think we're going to give you guys some good things to use, some good practices to kind of mull over, food for thought, so to speak. Moving on from this, I think this video will definitely help you master your mind in a way and give you a good, at least, glimpse at what it would look like and what it would take,
Well, and coming in right out the gate, there's only really one reason you're going to be here. And we know what it is. I mean, you know what it is. I know what it is. It's because your thoughts aren't really what you want them to be in a positive way. Because let's say that your thoughts are always positive and they're cotton candy and rainbows and happiness and you're amazing. Well, why would you be here? Like,
why do you need to be here?
What do you need it for? Like,
we're basically just making assumptions of the issues you're dealing with because you're looking for this on YouTube.
No, and it's good. I think it's good and it's helpful because sometimes we know what our issues are. We know kind of what we're feeling, right? What we're dealing with, kind of one of the lion that's peeking around the corner, right? You might feel like the gazelle, but I think it's kind of helpful sometimes to illuminate it even further. So you can see like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, I identify with that. So coming in right out the gate, right? You're probably having a lot of negative thinking. You're probably having situations where, you don't feel like your own mind is your friend. You don't feel like it's out for your best interest, right? Maybe someone says something to you and you start, mulling over it and thinking about it and really chewing on it. Or, you have a friend or a situation or a relationship where it's happening, right? To where these thoughts are coming up and they're really not pleasant. They don't feel good, right? They don't make you feel good. A lot of times what you're thinking, right? You portray it in your body, you're maybe not smiling, you're maybe not happy, so other people see it. So this is a really huge problem. It's not just one of those kind of passing things. It's not just something that we could just really mull over as if it's not anything. Because I remember in my own experience, right, starting out when I was trying to get a hold of my own mind, it didn't feel like it ever really worked with me. It was kind of like trying to Rango Jello. Like it was like trying to stick it to the wall or something, right? It doesn't really work with you very well. So I think some people, and hopefully you're watching and you're looking for the tips, right? If you're feeling that now, sit tight, because we're going to get into some of the methods in a little bit here.
And I think, to get started for me, it comes from the inability, not being able to control your mind is because you're not able to separate yourself from your thoughts, you know? And if you're in that place where you're kind of identified with everything that comes up into your head and every thought that you have, and you're assuming that everything that you think, you're thinking for some reason, or everything that you is in your head has a meaning, and it wouldn't be there if it didn't have a meaning. I can assure you that's not the case, because you can create some pretty funky scenarios in your head if you wanted to with your imagination. You can do pretty much anything. And so what will happen is that you identify so much with the thoughts that are running through your head that there's no space in between those. There, you are those thoughts. And so, you know, like we said, you know, we kind of assume that these aren't the thoughts that you want. You know, they're not very productive for you. Maybe they're self-hatred or self-defeating or self-doubt or self-esteem issues, or just very I can't type of, you know, thoughts, and I'm not good enough, and, you know, all these flood of thoughts. That's just some examples of, you know, maybe the things that come to mind when you think of not in control of your mind. Because I think of, you know, being afflicted by these thoughts. Now, I think that way. Now, like, notice the separation there, because you might be in a place where you think like, I am mad, and, you know, you're not necessarily mad. You are being afflicted with, you're not necessarily mad yourself. You can't identify, you identify as that emotion so much because the thoughts are your own. And so when you're mad, you're just upset and viciously angry, and there's nothing that really changed that, because all of these reasons. When you're sad, you can just sit there and your mind just gathers evidence for you, and just, you know, gives you all these reasons why you're sad, and brings up memories that make you sad, and, you know, think about future possible scenarios that would, you know, agree with the sadness. And, you know, so when you're identified so closely with your thoughts as, you know, all real, all mattering and meaning things and something, it can cause some emotional or mental kind of struggle, suffering even, because if you're not in control of your mind and you struggle with self-hatred, you're gonna self-hate a lot in your head, and that's, you know, usually
that hurt.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be suffering. You know, that's what we're trying to alleviate here. Essentially, this is like trying to fix heal a wound here, because, you know, if you're in control of your mind, you don't have this problem. You don't, you know, once you've gained control of your mind, you are at a place where thoughts you don't want to think about don't come up. Right. Things, you know, you don't go on this spiral that you just get trapped in, and just causes all these emotions as you're dragging your consciousness through the mud. It doesn't happen as often, you know. And yeah, you clearly want to say something there.
And maybe because I'm thinking maybe you feel that way, right? Because it's like sometimes the mind can feel like it's a prison, in the sense of there are very few things in this life that you keep with you all the time, right? That actually stay with you all the time, right? You know, you die, and, you know, you lose all your money. You know, you don't talk to your family. You know, like there's a separation there, right? And you know, maybe something happens after, but while you're here, there are very few things that are always present, right? And the one thing that you kind of have to know, if you're experiencing, you know, these negative or unhappy or unpleasant, or, you know, whatever, just kind of, right, these bad thinking, is it can sometimes feel like you are stuck in a cage with an animal that wants to eat you, and you don't have any other way to get around it, because you're stuck there. You're like, I don't know, like, I'm gonna run in a circle, like, I'm gonna run in a circle, because that's all you can do, right? You can climb up the bars, you can hang upside down, but after, like, eventually it's gonna bite your toe, or it's gonna bite your leg, or yeah, like, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but it's like once you kind of get a hang of kind of what's going on in your mind, it's almost like you open that door, right? And you can just leave, because it's like, right, you're in a cage. I don't have to be in here. I have the key. Like, I can just leave whatever I want, right? So I think that feeling of kind of being stuck, right, with what you're thinking, that feeling of being trapped in your own prison of the mind, right? The negativity, you know, the feelings, the hatred, the shame, right? All these things are in the mind, and I think it's very underrated in the West. It's very underrated in the United States to actually control this stuff when you're. We're growing, and hopefully, if you stick with us, or you're a repeat visitor, right, and you've been hanging with us for a while, guys, you've gotten some of this. But this is probably the most important stuff you'll learn in your life, bar none. Because if you don't know how to control your own thinking, you can't really get a whole lot done because you're never going to feel that good, right? Think about all the things in your, and I don't want to do this to you, right? You're probably here to get rid of this stuff, but think of think about how many things in life don't go well, right? Like something bad happens, and then for the next 3 days you're thinking about it. Like, well, you could have had a great 3 days, like if you could just get rid of it. So I just want to kind of just shed some light on that, because I remember how I felt when I kind of was going through a lot of that, and maybe you identify.
Well, and that's actually a good example there, because you know, you're stuck. You know, you're stuck in this state of just repeating the same thoughts that have no productivity. You know, I talked about this in another video, and I think it was the last one we were talking about learning, because we got a little directed to controlling your mind. Like one of the areas we talked about was needing to kind of control your mind before you get to go, you know, study and learn. And it's just interesting, because that's the same type of thing we're talking about here, where if something will happen to you in your life, an event that upsets you, causes you to go through the normal cycle in your mind that you don't even see as a cycle. You just feel like, I'm this person who deals with these issues. And that's true in some senses and some definitions. But really what's happening is that you have a lot of patterns in your brain. You have a lot of patterns of thinking. You have a lot of biases and opinions and beliefs and judgments that you can read a pattern from it. And your brain's a pattern recognizing machine. And so what it does is it sets patterns of thoughts up for you. You know, I give this, you know, the subconscious metaphor a try here, where really all you're doing with your subconscious mind, what thoughts are, okay, is that we code memory. When I'm sitting here talking, and every time, you know, you hear a word, there's certain memory coding that's I don't know the exact, I'm not going to butcher it. I would take me forever just to take the terms, because they're really long, but you have a coding process that is a short term and a long term, right? And some get put into, you know, short term, some get put into long term. But so what thoughts are essentially, after you've built this kind of construct in your mind, is when an event happens, everything that you have to think, feel, remember about that specific situation gets kind of brought up to your mind, brought up to your conscious mind, and they kind of flood over you. You have these instant thoughts. You ever had those thoughts that just came to you? You're like, oh, like, where did it come from? Like, you didn't necessarily think it, you know, or you had a great idea. Where did it come from? Like, it came from somewhere. It's a combination of imagination and the memories that you have, and the coding and the memory coding that you have. And so that's how we create original thought, is based on our previous experiences and thoughts about the future mixed with our imagination. And so when you stop thinking about thoughts, I think a big thing to get out of the way here, out of the gate, is to look at thinking as not something that, you know, is just something that happens, but actually something that you have control over. You kind of have to change your perspective on what thoughts are, because thoughts are created by you and inside of you simultaneously. Your mind works at a rapid rate, but your subconscious mind actually works. What was it? The number, like, is it 20 or is it 200?
No, it's
200?
Like 200 million or something. It's insane.
200 million. Okay, that's crazy.
200,000. 200,000, I think.
There's a large difference in the capacity and processing ability of the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind. That's because the conscious mind doesn't have to hold all that information. It doesn't. And but your subconscious mind, the memories, all the construct that you have, who you are, who you identify, who is Dan Hansen, who am I, that, like, what that means to me, all that stuff is in here, memory coding. And it's not, if you drill down, it's all just gray matter, but you build this through your process of your life. And that's what brings you your thoughts. You know, you base it on your experiences, your beliefs, your opinions, the things that you've taught, the things you've learned and accumulated and put in there over time. It's not something that always means something. Sometimes it's just the result of a situation, you know, the right variables.
Yeah, I think, and I want to talk about some obstacles that you're going to hit probably right now. But first, I want to give a definition that may reshape the way that you think, because that was an excellent way to put it, right? But when you think about your thoughts, when you think about what you're thinking, right? A lot of people think what I'm thinking, that voice in your head, right? If I tell you to think about a potato masher, right? Like, or a cheese grater, or a sheep, like that process in your mind, you're like, oh, right. Yeah, that's my thinking. That's my thoughts. Right. But there's a different one, the monologue, right? Oh, I'm so tired, right? Oh, I need to go, that in your head. That's also thinking. That's also a thought, but it's almost like our definitions of thought aren't really that specific. And I'll tell you what I mean, because this is important. When you think about what you're thinking, when you think about what a thought is, it's really helpful. It's really valuable. It's really easy to get around them if you start to think about them. And this is a gradual process, right? You'll get it more and more that you play with it. But it's helpful to start to think of them as appearing in your mind rather than you're doing them. And I'll say that again. It's helpful to think of them as appearing in your mind. So you could imagine you have a TV in your head, right?
Or also being
right here, looking at
not doing them, but also or not being them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just showing up, right? So it's if you took that on and really try and think about that for the rest of this video, if you can, because a lot of what we're going to talk about is helping you to move towards a space where you can think about your thoughts as separate from you, so that you can get away from the bad ones, right? So that you can feel better, so you can feel happier, so you can have more access to, like, just the more, I mean, I'm sure you have a happy memory that you really like, that you just want to keep on replay. Why can't you do that, right? Why can't you do that? Well, it's because we don't have the tools to do that, right? So I want to slip what we do, right? I want to slip into the obstacles, right? Because there's going to be a mindset that you probably have. And I remember, because I had it, right? I had this huge argument. It was a debate with this guy. I remember we were at work and we were talking about nature versus nurture. And I used to have this very, very strong belief, very, very strong, that people were set in stone. Like, you were going to be what you were going to be. You really don't have much leeway. There's not a lot of, like, you can't change that much. Your IQ can't change that much. Your patterns can't change that much. Nothing can really change that much. You're just going to do what you're going to do. And I argued this for so long with this guy. And he was saying the opposite, right? We went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Long story short, he ended up convincing me otherwise. But here's the trap. Here's the trap. So if you thought this, hold on. The trap is thinking, well, I can't really change this. Like, I might pick up some tips and tricks and whatever, but this is who I am. Like, this is who I am. Like, yeah. I am, that you're gonna have, and maybe Dan, you have some stuff you want to tell the guys, because it's like that thinking is very dangerous.
Well, and that thinking is exactly the problem. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Is you have this thought about your ability to control your mind and control what's going on in your head. And you're like, no, I mean, I know that's probably possible for some people, but I've just never really had any control over my mind. And it's like, I kind of just groan inside when I hear people say this. I'm like, yeah, I said that too. When I was convinced that there was nothing I could do about what was going on in my head, then that was the case. Whether you aim for success or you aim for failure, you're right. You're going to succeed. Like, you're whatever you're aiming for, you're going to succeed at. And so if you're aiming at, I can't do this, and you're convinced that that's the route you're going to take, then that's the route you're going to take. I think I butchered that phrase. It's actually, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Sorry, let me repeat that. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So you're in this state where you're just like, well, it's because you've never done it before. You've never thought about this before. You've never really, and maybe you have, but you've never actually given any work to it, any effort to it, because it's not just this thing that's like, okay, let me just flip a switch in my head and now I'm in control. Like, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. It works like every other thing that you have to get good at to be successful at. You have to work at it. You have to put effort into it. You have to consistently go for it every day. I once got into a debate with one of my friends. She lives in Texas, and we would just talk on the phone, randomly catch up, and exchange life stories, whatnot. I'd coach her a little bit, and she'd change some of my perspectives, which is cool. And and I used to tell her like, you're very like, you say a lot about yourself. I'm like, and she was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like, you constantly say things that are negative about yourself. You constantly tell me that you're a lonely person and you're not good with people, and people don't seem to really get me, and I just don't really fit in, and it's just like things like that. Because we were talking about like social groups and dating and such, and like and the thing is that I told her, I said, look, you tell yourself this stuff, so you manifest it. Like, you are what you think. And you're thinking that you're all these things. So all these things, when you're in those situations, you're going to those thoughts. You're saying like, yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. They seem like they're uncomfortable. Rather than just being in the moment and creating thoughts that are maybe like with the ability to control your mind in that situation. For me, when I walk up to situations, I'm present. What's going on? There's nothing else going on. When I'm doing something, I'm fully focused. I have the control over my mind now after practice and a long time of effort. I don't want to make it seem like some daunting task, but I'm not going to bullshit you here. It's not really like a short process. Like, you're not going to just see results in 3 days. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know if I ruined the whole charade of it. We're not trying to clickbait you here. This isn't something, there's no real, there's tricks that we can teach you. But the point with that story is that I gave her these tips, right? And these tips about, focusing on positive things, looking at, noticing some of the thoughts in her head, paying attention to some of the repeat problems and identify them and come up with other thoughts to think when those thoughts come up. And or meditate and practice clearing your mind and focusing your mind on single things and getting very calm and creating a space in between your thoughts and practicing doing that, as difficult as some people find it to be. That practice helps build space. It flexes the muscle of building the proverbial muscle of building space and pushing away thoughts, because you're sitting there trying to meditate. Anyway, I'm telling her all these things before I spiral off on a meditation. We'll do another video on that. Telling all this stuff, it's generally common advice that I can read and find anywhere on the internet, and from motivational speakers, self-development people, therapists. All these people use generally the same advice as we do. I've talked to multiple therapists, and I've not myself, but I've conversated with them in casual occasions, and found that a lot of the stuff that they teach is stuff that it's like, yeah, we're thinking the same thing here, and we tell this advice and we give this advice, and you know what happens? You know what she does? You know what she does with this advice? She tries it for 3 days and then starts complaining that it's not working and doesn't do any of it again. And it's like, well, okay, then you're gonna fail. If you're not willing to persevere through the hardness and the maybe early failure that you're going to go through at doing this, because you're going to fail, you're going to mess up, your mind's going to wander. It took me a long time to get a good rein on my mind and get good control over it. And what you notice is that you have to be willing to accept the victories as they come and see it as a growth process. Because if you try to get too kind of focused on getting this issue just dealt with because I got to go do my life, it doesn't work like that. This is now your life. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a choice of how you live each moment. It's a choice of how you decide to work, how you decide to relate and conversate with other people. Do you want to be present in those moments? Do you want to be actually authentic and being yourself and just totally cool and not worried about anything else? Do you want to be able to focus on your studies and do what you're trying to do, your project?
Do you want to be happy?
Do you want to be successful? I mean, because you need to be able to control your mind. It's important. It's not hokey. It's not spiritual. It's a practice. It's a skill. It's something you must develop, and you must push through the failure that you're going to get. And we've talked a lot. I feel like we've prepped him enough here. What do you think we give him a little?
I want to walk you guys back. I want to walk you guys.
We're walking back. Never mind.
Give
us another minute.
Because it's like, if you don't be afraid. Don't be afraid by this. Don't be scared by the fact that this might be a process, or because this is an opportunity for you to grow. This is an opportunity for you to get where you want to go, right, through these practices. But I think the important thing to notice is that when you're picking up something new, right? Here's a great story for you, right? And so let's imagine you don't know how to fight, right? Let's just picture it, right? Whatever you look like, whatever there's a lot of you guys, but let's just say that you don't know how to fight at all, right? You've never done it before. Well, if you go to someone to get trained, right, to learn, to experience, to pick up some new skills, to do that, right? You wouldn't go in and say, okay, like, I got a day, I want to fight. And they can't teach you how to fight. No one can teach you how to fight. They can only teach you moves. They can only teach you techniques. You are the one that knows how to fight. That's the only way it works. So we can't teach you how to fight, but we can teach you how to throw a punch. We can teach you how to step. We can teach you how to move, right? So these techniques are the process, right? Each thing that you learn, each thing that you put into practice, each day you use them, each time you deal with a thought and make it positive or make yourself feel better or work through that, you're throwing a punch, right? This is a process. So it's don't get scared and think, well, you know, I was looking for quick tips. They are quick tips. They are quick tips and you can use them immediately, but it doesn't mean that you're going to never have a negative thought again. You will, but it's a consistency thing, right? And if you choose, right, if you decide that it's a worthwhile thing and you want to feel better all the time and, you know, kind of have better thinking, more clear-mindedness, just not having to deal with all that negativity, now's the time, because now is when we're going to talk about the techniques for you.
To add on to that real quick, it's kind of like we're gonna, you know, give you some, like, it's like a recipe. You know, you ever like, you know, you ever talk to your mom and when she bakes cookies, or they had some type of some dish that one of your family members cooks for you often that's always really good and you love it and you always have it, and every time they make it you're just like, oh yes. And you know, you ask them one day once you're old enough, kind of like, oh, you know, where'd you learn this? And they tell you, they're like, well, you know, when I first started doing it, I went by this, you know, recipe, name a big brand for, you know, cook recipes, I don't know, but you know, I went off that at first, but after over time, you know, I kind of like realized I liked a little more salt and a little more cheese, and you guys like it a little crispier, so I started cooking it longer. And so it's, what I mean by this is how this relates to controlling your mind and self-development in general, is that your mind is individual, your mind is unique. Okay, it's only you. There only is one of you in the entire world that has had your experiences in your, you know, your life. And so, you know, we'll give you some tips and this will give you pointed in the right direction. And you might find that it's a good concept and you're like, ooh, but I'm going to say this instead, or this actually gives me an idea. What if I started doing this? That's a good thing to be at. Like, if you have ideas of like, oh, okay, well, I understand what I'm doing here. I'm basically just trying to do, you know, communicate different thoughts to my head and, you know, push out bad ones. So I'll communicate this instead. And you kind of come up with your own methods too, as well, because you need to, because you know your mind better than anyone. So you know what it needs better than anyone. We are just trying to give you the ideas and concepts that show you that you can control it, so you can come up and develop good cognition rather than faulty cognition.
So, the moment you've been waiting for, the moment you first out the gate. This is the coup de grace. I think that's how you say it, right? So if you had to say to someone, what is the thing that they need to know how to the one thing they need to know how to control, right? Not your thoughts, but the thing they need to know how to control their thoughts. What would you say that is?
I would say you need to focus on specific thoughts. Okay. So instead of you think trying to control your mind, kind of instinctually and intuitively, you think, okay, I'm going to try to just push stuff out. I'm going to flex my head really hard. And it's not that. Okay. Like, you actually engage with your thoughts. You actually just let your thinking happen. You don't resist it at all. Go with it. Just let it wander and just be aware of it as it's happening. You know, and by being aware of it, I mean, just like realize that you're here for a purpose. You know, you're not just here to, okay, you know, in sports, yeah, and then just completely forget what you were doing. You're here to let your mind wander and observe what it's like to just kind of wander through things. Right now, what I mean by getting specific is, for instance, for me, like I'm not gonna go through all these, but I'm gonna give you some, because I've talked about this before, is no past, right? One thing that I tell myself as I'm letting my mind wander, you know, is if my mind will be wandering, and I've gotten to a place where I can fairly do this quickly. So don't be, you know, your mind, it's going to not necessarily happen instantly for you, but it's something that once you kind of get used to doing, it will help you. And is that if you kind of tell yourself, all right, no past, I have no past right now. Right now, I'm choosing to just let everything go that happened before this moment. I'm not thinking about it at all. Now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen instantly? What just happened to me is that your mind instantly brings up everything that it was just thinking about that has to do with the past. Like, you'll start being like, oh, you mean this? Oh, you mean this? Oh, you mean this? You know, like, it's going to bring everything up and you're going to think, oh, well, it's not helpful. No, don't forget, you're not supposed to resist this. You're not resisting this at all. You're rolling with it. This is about observing your thoughts. This is about seeing them happen. This is about seeing how they kind of just whoop, whoop, whoop. You know, like, and one of the ways to do that is to tell yourself, I'm letting go of the past. Nothing happened before this moment right now. Nothing at all. No. And you sit there and you try to just, okay, I'm letting go of everything in the past. And I promise you, your mind's going to be like, you mean this? You mean this? You mean this? And to me, for one of the things I do is I'll acknowledge it and be like, yeah, those, I don't say that out loud, but it's like a thought, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, yeah, those thoughts, those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm just letting those go. I'm just letting those go right now, and then you'll kind of bring it back up again and you'll be like, no, but I'm just letting the past go right now. No past right now. And then it'll bring something else up and you'll switch over to that and you'll be like, no, I'm letting that. Now what you're doing there is called thought identification. Okay. You're like literally in your own mind, so to speak, observing your thoughts as they come up. And because you're trying to do something very difficult, well, not difficult, but difficult for maybe you at the time, what you're trying to do is let go of things and let go of the past. And you're going to think, well, I can't do that because I have to think about this. And how would I even know if, well, that's your mind bringing up thoughts. Those are thoughts. Like, let your mind wander, because that wandering is what you're trying to observe. So thought identification through the process of telling yourself no past. No past. Nothing's happened before this moment. I am only this moment. I have nothing, no history before this. I am just this moment and on. And if you want, and I mean, if you got, maybe what do you got to say about that, Greg? You got anything to add to that, the no past thing, or any other?
I think there's a really helpful heuristic that I like to use. I don't know where I picked it up. I don't know where I heard it, but it's that depression is consistent. And obviously, clinical and all that kind of stuff. What I mean is specifically when you feel depressed, right? When you feel depressed, but depression is constant reminiscence on the past, right? Because you're like, I'm so sad that this happened. I'm so sad that this happened. I'm so sad that this happened. Oh, I can't believe this happened. I'm so sad. And sometimes you'll project in the future, like, something happens and then you're thinking, well, what's going to happen? But ultimately it's about, oh, I'm so sad and I'm so sad. And this happened, this thing happened, and I'm so sad. That's basically what it is, right? That's past, right? That's past. So you cut that off, right? You cut off that leg. It's an octopus, and you just cut off that leg. But there's more, right? And this is where the other side of that comes in, right? It's the idea that anxiety, and you felt it before, you felt that hard, deep anxiety, right? And it comes with your thoughts. It's like they carry them in, right? It's a chariot and they're on it. And so when you start to notice, anxiety is actually really just you worrying about the future. It's really what it is. If you were to identify it, if you were to put a name on it, it's not anything other than right here in your body, in your mind, you're breathing, you're sitting there or standing, or you're on your phone, and you're there, you're doing what you're doing. And anxiety, it trickles in, right? It comes up and you're thinking, oh, I've got to go do this thing. And I didn't plan enough time, or, oh, I've got to go be here and I don't have enough money, or, oh, I got to pay the, right? Anxiety, very, 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 very worry, right? Worry, it comes up, fear. And all that is your thoughts right now are obsessing about the future, right? So if you can start to notice that really a lot of where this comes from is the obsession with past and future, right? And you can separate from that. You can just that alone gives you so much freedom, because you're aware that, oh, okay, I'm just thinking, I can just kind of let that go. Like it's not even happened yet. Like I'm here. I'm where I'm standing. I'm where I'm sitting. I'm breathing. I'm eating. I'm in the bed. Like you can just be where you're at, because you've let go of that.
Okay, so I kind of already gave you the idea here. Greg's kind of like added into that with the future. And in the same practice, I would say, is the same way you said no past, say no future. Say, I'm letting the future go. I'm not going to deal with the future anymore. No future. I'm just here. I'm not thinking about anything from the future. And what's going to happen, you remember, is, oh, you mean that? Oh, you mean that? Oh, you mean that? Again, that's a way that you can identify thoughts. Yes, those thoughts, I'm letting them go. I'm letting them go. And you're giving your brain instruction. What you're now doing is using thoughts to control thoughts. You're fighting fire with fire. You've engaged with thoughts, not resisted it and run away from it. You're now engaging with it and saying, yes, those, I'm letting that go. You're telling your brain, I'm letting this go. I'm letting these go. And now, and then you go through, and I would say go through again and do no desires. Same thing. Oh, you mean that? Oh, you mean that? Oh, you mean that? No imagination. Oh, you mean that? Because that's kind of an abstract concept. That's just in your mind. It's not a lot of things. I feel like most times it's one singular image. Anyway, And what this does is, right, this gives you the awareness of thought, the ability to communicate with your thoughts in a weird sense. And it kind of creates the, you know, the sight, the thought sight that say, oh, okay, that these are just thoughts coming to my head. This isn't me. I can choose from these. They're just suggestions for a, you know, particular course of action. And so what I'd say for controlling thoughts, because that's one way to identify thoughts, but you kind of have to be able to do that to control thoughts. And so one of the ways to control them is to, for me, my favorite, and has always been my favorite, is called flag posting. I don't know what therapists call it, but apparently it's very similar to what they teach in certain scenarios. And I call it flag posting because essentially you have a thought. Think of a thought as an object for a second. This is a thought. And this thought comes to mind, and it's a bad one. It's a negative thought. It brings you down. It's non-productive, depressive, anxious, whatever it is, right? I hate myself, or I'm so ugly, or man, I'm never going to make it, or I'll never be that successful, or no one will ever love me. All these freaking terrible thoughts, because I still haven't found out if I can say the F word on YouTube, is all these terrible thoughts that come into your head that just do nothing but destroy you and fill your head with toxicity. Is come up with, write them down, right? First, these repeat hitters, the big ones, write them down. Be very aware of them. The one or top two hitters, focus at a time. Top two, just focus those on at first, because those are the major ones. You're going to notice those. Those are going to be the biggest problems in your life, the major on your life. You know, the self-hatred, or the one that really gets you. And when you have that thought and you know what it is, let's say I'm never going to be successful. All right. The better thought there is the flag into that thought. I'm going to do everything that I can to be successful. Nothing is going to stop me, right? Now you say that each time you're planting that flag in there. Thought comes ahead, saying it out loud, meaning it, planting that flag in there. Thought comes up, I'll do whatever it takes to be successful. I'll never be successful. I will do whatever it takes to be successful. I'll be successful. I'll do whatever it takes. And this is why it's a lifestyle choice, because that's why you have to be able to identify thoughts as they come up, because you need to be able to identify when you're in this state. You need to identify when this thought comes to your head, so that you can do this every time. Because what will eventually happen is when you've done this for long enough and you've been diligent enough at it, when you think when you think I'm never going to be that successful, it's like, oh, like I'll do whatever I can to be successful. And you don't even have to like add that in there. You don't even have to like do anything. There's no more flag posting, because every time this comes up, you've conditioned your mind to think this other thought that's a neutralizing, helpful, productive thought. And so now what happens is all of a sudden you have a choice that creates a choice in the moment. Which one are you going for? Which one are you choosing? This isn't like oh my gosh, I'm afflicted with negativity. It's like, boom, I got two thoughts. One sucks, one's good. Which one am I going with? You know? Right. And so like that's kind of one of the main ways that I have found to be successful for me, especially at controlling the negative thoughts that oppress us, is by implanting and injecting a process, a new way of thinking every time a thought comes into mind. The idea of conditioning comes to mind. Greg, do you have anything to say about kind of what that means physiologically, or like how conditioning works? Like, do you have anything for them on that? Like,
well, I want to share a story first, because I went to the science museum before. Right, I went to the science museum before. And it was super cool. I'm into I'm really into you know, animals and plant life and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool, right? So I'm in this museum, and I remember that there were these huge like aquarium glass wall things, right? They were just like, it was like there was animals, or I guess fish, right, and plant life, and you know, sea life and whatever, and they'd housed it in these big old glass like aquarium things. Well, I'm having this kind of thought, right, and I might, you know, pick up the story in a second here, but you got to recognize that what you're thinking, right, the stuff that you're thinking, the things that come in your mind. Picture a huge long hallway, right? It's just this long hallway. You see it, right? But you can't really see the end. Like, it's really far. It's really long. And everyone's walking, right? Everyone's moving, right? It's just you there, but everyone has their own hallway, and it's up here, right? It's in here. It's out here. And you're walking, right? And you're just kind of trudging along, and you're feeling pretty good. You're feeling okay. But what happens is, there's a point in our lives when we stop, right? And maybe you're 5, maybe you're 10, maybe you're 15. You're not walking anymore. You just stop. You just stop where you are. And what happens is you were going somewhere. You maybe you forget, maybe you don't see the end anymore. But what happens is you start to look around, and on either side of you, you see these big glass walls, right? And behind the walls, there's water. There's just huge amounts of water. It's rushing, and you can hear it, right? It's just all over the place, right? And so you're looking around, and you see these little, there's fish, right? It's fish. It's fish in these two huge aquarium walls on either side of you, right? And they're almost crushing you because they're so huge, right? They're so big. The glass is thick. You can see these fish moving back and forth. And what does it mean? Well, you've got to recognize that when you're thinking, right, the way that you're thinking, the things that you're thinking, you could be moving, right? You could be taking action. You could be walking wherever you're going. You could be walking. But what happens is you get distracted, right? You get distracted. Ooh, pretty fish. Ooh, pretty fish. Ooh, purple fish. Ooh, blue fish. Ooh, a shark. Ooh. And you're not moving at all. You're just stuck because all these things are distracting you. And some people, they take it even to a weirder level. It's even deeper. Some people think they're the fish. Some people think that they're stuck. They think they're the fish stuck behind this wall, but they're not.
We all know you're talking about yourself.
No, I wish I was a fish, and I wish I was a fish, right?
See,
because
I told you.
It's like, who doesn't want to breathe underwater, right? But it's what it is. It's a misidentification, right? You think you're the fish. You think you're the thought, but you're not. You're in the hallway, right? You're moving. You're seeing these happen. They're appearing, right? So because what happens for you right now if I tell you to imagine a pitchfork, right? Imagine a pitchfork, right? Just or a shovel. Well, you can do that, and you don't think you're the shovel. You don't think you're the shovel, but you say, "Oh, I feel so negative. I'm so unhappy," and you suddenly have to be unhappy. Why? You don't have to be, right? That's not you. It's just something that you're kind of having, right? You're kind of dealing with it. So and I'll finish up the story because it was fun. You know, I was with my sister. We were kind of walking around, and what ended up happening was like I remember this was fun for me. I got to play on this simulator. And it was like an airplane simulator, a ship simulator. You got to fly, right? And it was really cool because I was like 14 or 12, or I was young, right? And I liked it. I had fun. So I'm sitting down, I'm flying this plane and take it off, right? It's right. We're going somewhere. I don't know where it is because it's simulation, right? I don't even know what's supposed to happen, but I've never done it before, right? So I grab the wheel, you know, I'm taking off, I'm flying, and you see all this stuff around you, right? You see all these like these little people, and you're taking off and you're getting higher, right? And well, long story short, I ended up crashing the shit out of that plane. Right. But what I learned from that experience, right, and really it wasn't conscious. It wasn't conscious until really this year when I kind of thought about this again, was I realized that I kind of enjoy exploring, right? I kind of enjoy moving. I kind of enjoy new things, right? And sometimes, and maybe you guys have identified with this in some way, you stop exploring, right? You stop moving beyond the things that you think, the things that you are, the things that you believe about yourself. You just quit, right? You just stay where you're at, and you're like, oh, I'm horrible, I'm terrible, I'm whatever, right? And that hallway, it's sitting there, and you think you're a fish, right? So all these techniques, the point of them, the purpose of them is really not. It's not to help you identify your thoughts, because that's a tool. Identifying your thoughts and being separate from your thoughts and controlling your thoughts, these are tools to get you where you're going, right? Because you want to be separate from them. Why? Because you want to be happy, right? You want to feel better. You want to feel more like yourself, right? Ultimately, you just want to feel more like yourself. And these negative thinkies, right? They're not helping you. They're not helping you. So you got to put these tools, I think, into practice. You got to put these tools into use. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. It could be, you know, hourly. It could be now. It could be tomorrow. But you got to start using them, right? You got to start flag posting. You got to start noticing. You got to start paying attention and just breathing, being where you're at.
I think an important perspective to understand is that that memory plus imagination equals thought. Thought plus emotion equals action, and actions have consequences. And so when you have this ability to control your thought, you control the outcome of your life. When you can control the places that your brain goes, and even when, because I mean, and I don't, we're not trying to toot our own horns here, but we like to talk about the fact that we've achieved this because it is possible. Greg and I are very similar in the ways where we came from, of very heady people, where we were lost in the mazes of our minds, completely just unaware of so much, just thoughts constantly raining down on our heads, just constantly, like, just honestly just putting pressure and just weight on our days and moments in our lives. And so I like to talk about the fact that that I'm at a place where I only think about things I want to. And at this point, I've conditioned my mind so well and been doing this so diligently for so long that I don't even have to struggle or put effort to do this anymore, because my mind just understands that if it's gonna, if you know, my construct, myself understands that unless my brain understands, if you're not going to play the way I want to play, then you get no play. Like I've gotten to a place where I separate from thoughts completely, and we can again talk about thought separation in a different video, because that is a whole nother nutshell. And you have to be able to control your thoughts to even do that, because that's where you have to start out. You have to start out by being aware of it. You have to start out by going through the no past, no future, no desire, no imagination exercise, and really let that show you how to view your thoughts. And when you get there, that's when you can actually start things like flag posting and thought replacement and thought diffusion, which is what that is in just other terms. And those are good keyword terms that you should look up and research how to do this, and find areas in different ways that maybe relate to how your brain works and might be easier for you. But the whole, I think probably the most important part of this video is really the learning to be aware. If you have very little to no control over your thoughts, some of the first steps for you are just becoming aware of what thoughts are like, and viewing your thoughts and observing your thoughts are like, because that's the first step to controlling them. You can't control your thoughts if you're not even aware of what the sensation of a thought is like,
Yeah, and a good way to test if you're kind of aware or not, right? You probably had that sensation where, you're driving, you get in the car, right? You check your your seatbelt, your lights, and all that stuff. You're looking around, right? And you turn on the car and you start driving, right? Wherever you're going, and you get off into thinky land, right? Thought land, brain land, mind land. I love it. I like the word, right? So you get you get going, right? You get going in your car, right? You're moving, you're going somewhere, and 3 minutes in, you're zoned out. Like you're gone. You're barely driving the car, right? You're looking at stuff, but behind your eyes, you're thinking about whatever. Oh, I hate this person. Oh, this thing. And oh, this person. Oh, wow, look at license plate. And you're not really driving. You're just doing whatever. And you get to the place, right? You pull up at the house or the event or the store or whatever, and you're back. You're like, okay, I get out of the car now and I'm going. That whole time, right? That whole time, you were not aware of what you were thinking. It was just going on, right? It was just, you were a fish. So like, those are the moments when you could try to just stay a little more aware, to say, okay, like, what am I thinking right now? And that's a good question to ask sometimes. What am I thinking right now? And just actually ask that and wait, right? What am I thinking right now? And you may not be thinking anything, but you might be thinking something, and you'll see it. It gives you the ability to see it, right? There's an idea that I really like, right? And it goes way back into like the Egyptians. It's called second sight, which is this is what they believe, right? They believe that second sight, the ability of your inner mind to see into the spirit world was a real thing, right? And whatever you believe, I'm not saying this is true, but what I'm saying is that you gain a second sight when you start to be able to see your thinking. Because if you do that, right, if you start to be able to see what you're thinking, you can change what you're thinking. And if you can change what you're thinking, you can feel as good as you want. You can do whatever you want because you have that control, right? You have that. It's like sometimes you feel in life, you don't feel really secure with where you're at because you don't have that control, right? But once you get it, right, once you have it, it's like, man, like I could really do whatever I want. So these techniques, they're meant for you to use. They're meant for you to put into action, right? To put into place. And maybe because I remember when I kind of started to think about how to use thought, but you might have a little better handle on this for the guys and girls than me, Dan. What's the monster, right? What's gonna show up when they turn this video off, when they go back to bed at night, that's gonna make them basically just forget all this stuff? Can we point that out now so they'll see it?
Excuses.
Whoo.
I mean, just like, and they're not gonna feel like excuses to you. They're gonna feel like totally reasonable justifications. They're going to feel like rationale. It's going to make sense to you. It's going to make you feel comfortable to think these thoughts. You know, some of the most resistance that I've seen from people when talking to them about how to control their thoughts, it's this kind of like, yeah, that's not for me, or, oh, you know, that's a good concept, but I don't really think that, like, I need that. I'm pretty in control of my thoughts, and yeah, I don't really want to have to go through all the effort, and I don't really know if that's even going to work. And so it's like you just kind of come up with these like reasons and these justifications and excuses as soon as you're out of this video, and also the tendency is to think that there is something to do directly after this video. I mean, like, yes, there is, but this is a process. So don't feel the pressure to like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, control. I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm not going to let my mind. Just don't do that. Like, just don't. There's no pressure. Just take these concepts, let them mull over, write them down somewhere. The ones that you like let this, and start when you're ready to start. Start when you're wanting to control your mind. Start when you're wanting to access this control over the outcome of our lives. Whenever you feel like that's something that you want, go for it. You know, join the rest of us in the pursuit of taking every action and everything that we can do to be successful in the ways that we want. Because there is nothing, because winners do what losers won't. Okay, I think it was Tony Robbins said that. I quote him a lot because he's a great motivational speaker, and I like being motivated. And
he's a great person, man. He's a great person.
Yeah, just all around, like, great model of a human being to be is Tony Robbins. Like, the guy has just helped literally millions, probably billions of people. Hugely successful entrepreneur, has coached the greatest minds of the world, and it's just you know, but he knows that there's things that you can do to optimize your chances of success, optimize your life, your experience of living. And one of those things that he knows is very true is controlling your thoughts, the awareness of how thoughts have an effect on you, awareness of how thoughts will affect your emotions, and then in so your actions, in so the direction and course of your life. And so it's kind of ironic because I'll probably end up getting more specific into controlling thoughts and specific thoughts and specificity and the reactions of them when we talk about controlling emotions, because sidebar CBT goes thoughts, emotions, or it's actually event, thoughts, emotions, behavior change. And so we're going to get into a little bit more about choosing thoughts and being more specific with that when we talk about controlling emotions. That's why we've kind of stayed more focused here on becoming aware of them, because that's actually the first step. It doesn't feel like it. You want to like automatically have something. And honestly, the flag posting thing, if you can't do that consistently, you are not, then you're not going to be able to, do it. I'm sorry. I'm the guy, I guess I'm the ball buster here today. I'm feeling snarky or something, but it's very true. I'm sorry. That's the simplest exercise that you're ever going to find other than meditation. And meditation.
No, and it's easy. It's easy to start that. I mean, that one's easy to start. Like, it doesn't. You don't need any. You don't have to buy anything. Like, you just say, okay, like a thought I don't like, thought I do like. Like, it's very simple, right? So I think a lot of these practices are pretty basic, but the outcome, right? The abilities that you get are really high level, right? It's really high level stuff. And this is high level stuff. It's high level stuff you can use, that a lot of therapy, like therapists, they will recommend you to do this type of thing, right? And it may not be exactly the same, because a lot of times, you know, they'll change the names or they'll change what's happening. But a lot of times professionals, right, they'll give you tools that you could really find on your own. And a lot of this stuff you could find on your own, right? Like flag posting, it goes by other names, but it's something that you need to understand about yourself, is that no one's going to do this for you, right? We can't do this for you. Like a therapist can't do this for you. A professional can't do this for you. You know, a pastor can't do this for you. Like, no one can do it for you. We can give you information. We can push you in the right direction. Hopefully, you know, we give you a little fist bump and send you on your way with some energy, because we know that if you're here, right, that if you're watching, listening, present, You want to be successful. You want to move forward, right? You want to get out of that negative space that you might be in, or that you might be around, the weird living situation, or the weird, you know, friendship or relationship, and push that aside and actually move into a place in life that you want to be in, right? So the first step is to control what you are thinking. So if you like this video, if you like this cast, if you like this stream, if you like
Comment,
this
like, share, bring your
show, right?
friends, join the
Please do, right?
community.
And because this is hopefully valuable, but it's much more valuable if other people are incorporated, right? Because let's imagine a world, or maybe a world's too ambitious. Let's imagine,
but keep going.
yeah, it's not too ambitious. Let's imagine a world. This is just a world, right, where everyone can control their thinking. Like, I don't know what that would be like. Like, most of the problems are caused by stuff like that, right? Most of how we feel bad is caused by stuff like that, right? So don't just share or like or comment or you know, thumbs up out of obligation. Really don't do that, because this is here to provide value for you, right? If we provide value for you, if we give you useful information, do what you feel like you should do, right? Do like what you think makes sense, right? But most importantly, stick around, repeat visit, because we're going to keep doing this, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.